hear pastors saying after they have tested this out?
Yeah. One of the most common things is, in one way or another, I never thought I would find this kind of support. I never thought I could be in a place where I could be myself, where I could be open and honest, or some put it this way, I need this. I remember in this last group I started, there were two guys that were very hesitant at the luncheon. And they said, well, the one guy said, well, I don't really need it because I belong to a clergy group in my denomination, but I'll give it a try. By the end of the second meeting, he was in lock, stock, and barrel because he had the opportunity to tell his story, and he unloaded Steve.
Yeah.
He really opened up some big things in his heart.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that are there.
That's awesome. You know, people do need to be heard. We do need to tell our stories. And one of the things about this work, about being a pastor, is because you are perceived as a spiritual leader of the group, and even among your peers, let's face it, we don't like to admit it, but there's a certain amount of distrust and competitiveness among pastors. It's very hard to find any place where you feel safe, where you can really disclose who you are, share your story, feel like somebody cares to hear it. And if you share something about the darker experiences of your life, struggles with sin, fears, doubts, whatever, that you won't be sorry that you shared those things. But of course, these groups are absolutely confidential.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And only one time in the history of this ministry did I have someone, and unfortunately it was a group leader, breaking confidence. And I had to bring him into my office and warned him. I said, I can't have that one more time, and you're out of everything.
Okay.
See, because I got a call from
Good
another
for you.
pastor about it. It really hurt him that what he had shared in confidence was put out in an email.
As we can imagine it in an email.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Now, one other thing I'd say too, it's not possible, that's a strong word to use, but it's not possible to have this kind of a support group if all the pastors in it belong to the same denomination. So we deliberately make these cross-pollinated
that's a good
groups.
point.
One group I led for a number of years had a charismatic Episcopalian priest in it, had an Armenian Orthodox priest in it,
Oh my goodness.
had an Assemblies of God guy in it, had a Vineyard guy in it, had a Baptist pastor in it, and had me in it. We had a ball.
What a collection.
Really. And that's what makes these groups so invigorating. Always cross-pollinating.
Yeah, a real picture of the multicolored grace of God, as Paul would say.
Yes.
Well, you said that one of the things you do, Dick, with the groups as you're getting ready to put together an experimental community, see if guys want to do this, one of the things you do is share the story. And I wonder if you could just share the brief outline with us. What led you into this ministry? You've been a pastor yourself for 3 decades, which, again, congratulations to you and our hats off to you. And I know I don't have to tell you that that is unfortunately not common, a long-term pastorate like that. Even though all the data we have tells us that the most effective pastorates are unquestionably long-term, a lot of guys don't stay that long. It's remarkable in any denomination, in any setting, when a man serves a church, as you did for 30 years. That's a lot of pastoral experience. You've seen a lot of water go under the bridge. You've had high times, bad times. I'm sure you've done things that, looking back, you feel great about, and probably other things you don't feel so great about. So
could I do that over?
Can we get a do-over? Yeah, thank God for grace.
Yes.
So when you got finished with pastoring 30 years and decided to think about what God is going to do next, what were the needs? What was the calling you felt? Why did you feel led to establish Barnabas Ministries, Dick?
Let me go back in order to answer your question to probably 30 years ago, almost, all right? I was about in my 10th to 15th year at First Congregational in Hopkinton when pastors began to come to me. And the reason they were coming was that even back then, to have been in a church that long was unusual.
Right.
And they saw how God was blessing that ministry. So they came, and I realized, for one of two reasons. Some pastors came because they wanted to know the secret of my success. And they would ask me, and I had to be very honest with them and tell them, I don't know how this happened. All I know is God would show me something, and I would do it, and it would work. So I really can't give you the secret to success.
No formula.
There was no formula. Honestly, there was none, and there is none. I've been asked to write a book on it, and I said I can't because I don't know how God did it. See? But the other pastors who had come were discouraged pastors who were saying, can you just help me? See, those I really reached out to. Then several years after that, it was in the spring of 1992, I received a letter in the mail which invited me to come to a gathering of what they felt were spiritual leaders in New England, because they wanted to discuss how could we bring revival into the church in New England. I didn't want to go. I really didn't. I threw the letter away, and the Spirit of God said, pick it up. I picked it up, read it again, still didn't want to go, and very clearly inside he said, go. So I did. And as I went, a thought continued to come back to me in my mind. I couldn't understand it for the longest time as I was driving along. And it was, in essence, a question. Don't you think I have other servant leaders who love me and want to see my glory in this community? I didn't know what that meant. I got to the meeting, listened to the conversation and all, and then it clicked on me that God had been telling me something. And on the way home from that meeting, I had to make a decision. I understood now what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to go back to Hopkinton, bring together a small group of pastors who loved him, but weren't just like me, but were close by, and meet with them for a period of time and find out what God wanted from us. So I did that. There were 5 of us that committed ourselves to meet together for 9 months every third Thursday morning from 6:30 to 8:30 in the morning, and we would be there even when we were on vacation if we were home. They were very different from each other, the 5 of us were. 2 of them I only knew casually, but Steve, one of those 2, was less than 10 minutes to the west of me. His church was from mine. The other was less than 10 minutes to the east of me, his church from mine. The guy to the east, the guy to the west, and I had never met each other.
Never met.
But we'd each been in the ministry for a number of years.
Yeah.
So we got together and we made that commitment, and what happened was mind-boggling. Within about the second or third meeting of being together, we started to open up. And the hurts and the fears and the struggles and the angers, one of the guys was full of anger, just started coming out. And we started weeping over some of these things. We had never found anyone who would listen to us like this and who was committed to keep it confidential. Only our wives knew what we were doing. No one else knew. We said, we got to keep this absolutely confidential.
You got to keep the content of the meetings confidential, or the fact that you were having the meetings confidential?
Both in this case.
Really? Okay.
Both. Well, because the mindset of the lay leaders of many of the churches was, well, you should really be spending your time working for us. Here.
Oh,
Well, so many pastors have
Yes.
told me when they let their leaders know they were in the John 17 group, this was the response. One pastor came to me and said, my deacons told me I have to give them a written report of everything that goes on in my John 17, 23
goodness,
group.
yeah.
I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, I'm not going to do it. I said, that's right, you're not going to do it. But anyway, we kept it quiet from everybody.
Yeah.
The end of 9 months, I said, okay, our commitment is over. What are we going to do now? Let's tell each other what we've gotten out of this. And oh, Steve, our lives were being transformed, seriously, literally transformed. One guy said, you guys now need to know you saved my marriage.
Wow.
because he had been sharing the struggles between him and his wife.
Yeah.
And during the course of those 9 months, with the love, support, prayer for,
Yeah.
counsel where it seemed appropriate to give him, his marriage started turning around.
Isn't that wonderful?
I was with this guy 3 weeks ago for part of an afternoon because he and I are dear friends now. And I asked him, hey, how's it going? He said, oh man, it's going good. It's going good.
Oh, that's
You
great.
see? So anyway, then we agreed, okay, we're going to be permanent. The Lord gave us the name, John 17:23. We told our congregations, invited our congregations to come to a special meeting on a Sunday evening. And we would tell them the story of what we'd been doing. About 400 people showed up, Steve. We had a brief time of worship, and then one by one, the 5 of us stood up. And in essence, what we did, we explained to our people how we had sinned against them by planting in them a spirit of competition toward other churches, criticism toward other ministries, our own superiority, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
We said, we are responsible for the division in the church. And we asked you to forgive us, please.
Wow.
And then to show the seriousness of our intent, we washed each other's feet on that platform in front of everybody. And you could feel it. I felt it, Steve, something broke.
Yeah.
In the spiritual realm, something
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah.
That was the beginning
Wow.
of the John 17:23
That's a great story,
fellowship.
Dick. That is a great
Yeah.
story. I love that.